All right, Jack Ellison here with a 10,000 Sales Calls podcast this week. We've got Harry McBride with Contec, and many of you may know or may not know of Contec. And I think what I want to do is educate you guys a little bit, and I'll let Harry educate you a little bit. But Harry, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Jack.
First one ever, right?
That's right. Yeah, here goes my podcast career.
You're going to do well. But the whole premise, Harry, is, again, first of all, thank you for being here. I think guys like yourself that are forward-thinking and getting your name out there and doing some cool things, I applaud you for that. But I think the format we do on this thing is really talk about you, talk about your company, and then really go into what you're offering out there in the marketplace. And hopefully we'll generate some buzz around what you're offering and yourself, and maybe some phone calls will come along the way. I guess that's the goal. So
that is the goal.
I always start the podcast though with, and you'll have fun with this, but how the hell did you get into the cleaning business?
Yeah, so mine was kind of at birth, I guess. I work for Contec, and I work for a division of Contec called Contec Professional. But I was fortunate enough that my father actually founded Contec back in 1988. So essentially at birth, I was born into the business.
You basically prove my case here. You're either born in this business or you kind of stumbled into it. I stumbled into it, like a lot of things in my life. I stumbled into it, but you were born into it. So your dad's been in this business for how many years, roughly?
Shoot. I mean, so Contec's been around for 35 years now, and he had a career at another textile company before that down in Spartanburg, South Carolina, or one that's headquartered in Spartanburg, South Carolina,
Sure.
Milliken Incorporated. So I don't know. Shoot. I bet it's about 45 years, I'd say.
Wow. So you're born and raised.
That's right.
First job, cleaning business?
Out of college, you mean? Or
Yeah.
So initially out of college, I was working as a recruiter at a large recruiting firm called Robert Half in Boston. And then the pandemic hit and not so many people were hiring anymore. So I was let go of that role, ended up doing some recruiting for Contec at their headquarters down in South Carolina, and then picked up a sales territory role in the Midwest and based out of St. Louis. And now I'm in Boston.
That's the other thing I've been talking about is I think, did your father encourage you to get in the business from day one, or did he encourage you to go out there and kind of stumble a little bit and fall?
I'd say the latter. I mean, my dad was always great about saying, you know what, do what makes you happy. And initially what that looked like for me was actually doing international development work. I spent a lot of time in Tanzania and East Africa doing stuff with that. But just through kind of natural occurrence of events, I mean, the pandemic, I kind of fell into it, and I'm really happy I did. I mean, I love working at Contec. It's a great company. So.
That's awesome. No, I think that's the two things I joke about and I say often is, again, you either born into it or you stumble into it. More people stumble into it than are born into it. But, the thing I like about is, some parents out there that people are born into it, they will actually say to their kids, the father will say to the mother will say to their daughter or son is, hey, go out there and kind of give a different perspective of the industry, outside of the industry, I guess, and kind of bring something back to the table. So hats off to you, man. That's a cool introduction to the business overall. But
I appreciate it.
So Contec overall, those are not familiar with it. Again, I stumbled into you guys during the pandemic. I guess you guys had been booming with business during that time, but I didn't know anything about it. Give me a high level overview of your company, kind of what you guys do and kind of what your niche is, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so again, Contec was founded in 1988 in the upstate of South Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina. So we're a U.S.-based company. We do have manufacturing and warehousing all over the world now, in China and the U.K. and France, but still headquartered in South Carolina. And essentially, from a 40,000-foot view, what we do is make textiles, hardware, and chemicals for different mission cleaning in different critical environments across the world. So we've got 4 different divisions. Like I said, I work for Contec Professional, which covers most of the Jan-San space that I know you have your expertise in. But outside of that, we have Contec Healthcare. And now what that covers is essentially compounding pharmacies. So areas in a hospital where you'd be compounding and mixing drugs. There's also Contec Cleanroom. So that covers all sorts of different cleaner manufacturing, whether it's pharmaceutical manufacturing, biomedical manufacturing, med device, microelectronics, and then Contec Surface Prep that covers automotive and aerospace manufacturing. So essentially all or most of the most critical environments on Earth, Contec is a market leader creating cleaning supplies for those areas.
So when you say cleaning supplies, you're making wipes, you're making the cloths that go on the floor for mopping, the whole range. And that was the thing I found interesting was, the whole life sciences, microelectronics. So there's a clean space there, definitely a growing niche there, right? You got the pharmaceutical clean room supplies. That's a growing niche there. So that's huge. Our unsexy part of the business, I guess, would be the acute care and the commercial facilities compared to those. And those are stable, but those are all also, there's a lot more selling than I would say in that space. The guys who are in the life sciences, pharmaceutical, they understand the importance of kind of micro technology and the cleanliness that goes along with that. But as far as the acute, there's probably a lot more selling that you've got to say, take this mop and replace it with this, or take this microfiber and replace it with this, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think that I kind of think about it. I mean, I'm intimately familiar with Contec Professional, not as much with the other three divisions, but from what I've heard, tell about the other divisions, they're much more regulated. I mean, like with Contec Healthcare, you have your U.S. pharmacy codes that mandate what you should be using in these certain spaces. I feel like the Jan-San space is much more the Wild West. I mean, you got a lot of different concoctions and textiles out there that are being used. So I think all of our businesses require selling, but I certainly think selling is a huge aspect of Contec Professional for sure.
And you also have the automotive and the aerospace manufacturing side of the business as well. So there's a bet I've got on my CleanSquare, the website I host as well for the community. Those guys are not a part of the CleanSquare community. CleanSQ.com, please sign up. But I've got a bet of who's going to be the first manufacturer to really kind of market themselves as making it into the space station, or Elon Musk. Who's going to be that? Maybe you guys are already selling to NASA. I don't know.
Don't quote me, but I think I don't know about NASA. I think there's business we might do with SpaceX. So I don't know. Again, don't quote me on that. Maybe erase that clip. But no, I think there is some business that goes on there. Yeah, I
think that would be cool to. I think that's worth a year's worth of some free supplies just to say, hey, we're up 90 miles plus up in the sky. So I think that's cool. So the company's formed in '88. You make a whole wide range of things. What are you seeing out there? And I guess as you kind of go out and do what you do within that acute care and commercial facilities, what are the key things that you're seeing out there that you're trying to kind of shift the paradigm, or at least shift the direction of the industry? What's the story you tell? What's the game plan?
Yeah. So I guess to put it into an elevator pitch, what we're trying to do is really pivot the market from a relaundered microfiber cleaning product, which you see, I'd say, in probably 90 to 95% of most Jan-San facilities, either a relaundered microfiber or even cotton string mops, depending where you show up to. But what we're trying to do is really educate the population and the professional cleaning industry on why it's not such a great product, the inefficiencies, the fragility of microfiber as a textile, and why a disposal product is a much cleaner and safer product, but also a much easier product to use in your facilities. So
start with microfiber. So everyone's using microfibers now. Very few are using paper. You'll still use, some people go out there, still kick around paper, but if you had to kind of beat up on microfiber a little bit, again, you talk about the lifespan of it, you're talking about having to wash it. What's the story there? What's the angle?
Yeah. So, microfiber it's the best fabric out there for cleaning. It's why the vast majority of the cleaning industry has moved from those cotton string mops, those loop mops, to a laundered flat mop, because microfiber is great at mechanically removing contaminants and germs from a surface and taking them out of your facility. The problem with microfiber is that it's a rather fragile fabric. So microfiber at the end of the day is plastic. And when you look at it underneath the microscope, what it is really is these fine strands with sharp edges, these knives essentially on the end that cut and mechanically remove, like I was saying, from a surface. The problem with that, though, is what happens whenever you use microfiber. You got to put it through a laundry process to properly decontaminate and reintroduce it to your facility again. So what happens when you put it into that laundry process is you're really cooking it to a temperature that microfiber can't handle. So the CDC recommends washing your microfiber about 160 degrees for up to 25 minutes to properly decontaminate. Well, microfiber starts to break down and melt about 125 degrees. So what you're doing to those fine strands, those great cleaning fabric, is you're melting it, and you're turning into these melted globs of plastic that take away microfiber's integrity and its ability to mechanically remove.
Interesting. Wasn't aware of that. How long does a microfiber typically, would you say, a safe bet that has a lifespan before it kind of gets to that point of
So I'd say as far as the mops go, different manufacturers have different tags and different claims on their mops as far as when you should recycle it. we see facilities pushing mops to 200 to 300 times being used before they're starting to recycle them. I mean, you can see microfiber visibly. You can start to see it at that stage, but even within a dozen to 2 dozen uses, you're really starting to see it break down. Not only do you see the physical breakdown of it, but we get into things where a lot of what's got caught up in that microfiber is very hard to get out, because microfiber, as I was saying before, I mean, it's really manufactured to pick stuff up, not really manufactured to let it go. So even when you are washing and drying and cooking at these intense heats, it's still very hard to get all that stuff out. And that's when you run into issues like the phenomenon known as quat binding.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So with quat binding, I mean, oftentimes if you're using a quaternary ammonium, which is a common disinfectant found certainly in healthcare facilities, but across the cleaning industry, I'd say that has a specific charge to it, where the organic matter you're picking up off a floor has the opposite charge. Yeah. And quat can't distinguish between a piece of hair that got caught up in your mop and whatever's on the floor that it's supposed to kill. So oftentimes what you see is as soon as you introduce that quat to your textiles, whether it's your microfiber rags or your Relaundra flat mops, it quickly starts to attack the stuff that's been caught up in those mops. And even before you introduce those mops to your floors, your high-tech surfaces, that efficacy of your quat, which I believe is about 660 parts per million to be considered disinfecting by EPA thresholds, it started to dip below that. And really, you're just moving around water at that point. You're not really disinfecting.
Interesting. How many people would you say? I think the healthcare environment's more and more aware of that. I think, I had Daryl Hicks on. We talked about that, and we talked about, disinfecting floors and stuff like that. And he says, save your money. Don't do it for various reasons, because as soon as you disinfect it, somebody walks on it, it's going to disinfect it. But how many people out in this, the commercial real estate space, let's just say commercial contract cleaners, are outside of healthcare, education, whatever it may be, how many do you feel actually understand that quat binding concept? Again, not for mopping, but more for spray and wiper, as Daryl said, spray and pray,
Spray and pray. That's right. I think that area of the professional cleaning industry, I don't want to say lags behind, because I mean, it's a different space. They have different needs. Right. But I think it's certainly not at the point where the healthcare industry is. The healthcare industry is certainly waking up to, like I was talking about, the disadvantages of reusable microfiber.
Sure.
And I think we're on the forefront of pushing that, I would like to believe. But I think the commercial real estate, your BSCs, your education sector, they're probably a few years behind as far as that awareness.
So what's your message to those folks out there? That, because I think what you look at is the contract cleaners, if you really look at them, and again, I'm probably, this is too broad of a brush, but it's all about, if I can drive costs down on whatever we're using to clean, whether it be the chemicals, whether it be the sundries, like the microfibers or the disposable, if we can drive those costs down, we can, better manage our labor, we make more profit. But, they're looking at this thing going, well, if I got to replace these every time, that was my initial reaction as well. When I saw this, I go, there's no one going to go out there and use it, for 20, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, and chunk it away and get a new one. That just doesn't make sense. But from a cleanliness standpoint, it makes total sense. But when you get into the cost analysis and you start to break down the whole process, from we buy it, we use it, we launder it, we have to handle it, we do all this. The cost, I found, I think you probably have some cost calculators, but the cost kind of it was almost neutral, if I remember correctly. Am I off the mark on that at all?
No, I mean, cost is a 4-letter word for a sales rep, so I don't like to talk about it too much. But when we do, I think what we talk about is there are a lot of things that offset those costs. We like to say it's not apples to apples.
Yeah.
If you were to compare the cost of just your textiles from a reusable system to a disposable system, certainly you might spend more on those textiles for a disposable system. But the things you have to factor in when you move or transition to a disposable microfiber system is the lack of chemical, the lack of water, the lack of energy you're using on a daily basis to relaunder the stuff that you're using, both laundry detergent and that kind of chemical, but also just surely less chemical you're going to be putting in your floors, because our mops are going to make more effective use of that chemical, and also just not hold as much solution or not become as saturated because it's a thinner fabric, it's a thinner mop. What else you need to look at is labor. I mean, everyone's greatest cost, right? Sure. There's a lot of labor that goes into staffing a laundry process. There's labor time spent collecting, sorting, bringing back, picking up your microfibers at the beginning and end of a shift that with a disposable system are not going to be as burdensome. If
Yeah.
near the burden at all.
No, it makes sense. And do you have some cost calculators that you utilize to kind of help?
We do, yeah. We'll get into, a lot of them are geared towards healthcare, just because that's where, at least right now, that's a lot of where we focused on. But it'll compare, like, say you're at X hospital, XYZ hospital, and it's 100 beds. We can say you're likely going to use this much water and this much energy on an annual basis, and then annualize that out to like 5 years or so to say what costs you could be saving with that.
Oh, interesting. I think we used, again, I keep referencing Daryl because it was a great podcast. Again, the guy's informative. I think you said you met him once before. It's a great guy. And again, if you're not familiar, he wrote the Cleaning for Dummies, which was, again, a great starter. And, I love this spray and pray, because most people, when they spray down disinfectant, what are they doing? They're wiping it right away.
Right.
But let me ask you, we beat up on microfiber a little bit here, but the mops are still very large presence, right? So that's a thing you're still seeing in large droves out there that you're going after as well. Is that a fair assumption?
As far as the relaundered microfiber mops, you're saying?
Or just dirty old 1950s style mops that people use, and you see them piled up in the corner and they get washed 100 times and they're still being utilized. Or you're still seeing that out there. Is that something that falls within your kind of what you want to go after? Is, I guess, long term, short term, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking about like a string mop,
yeah,
I think relaundered microfiber is kind of the next evolutionary step, and we kind of see disposable microfiber as the ensuing evolutionary step.
Yeah.
So if you see someone with string mops, you're kind of asking them to skip 2 evolutionary steps at a time.
A little harder sell.
Yeah, which is a little harder. Yeah, I mean, if you see a string mop hanging over a slop sink in the back of a school or something, it might be a little difficult, but it's still about educating. And I think, as far as, going back to cost again, I think what we're trying to educate is, even if you can tell me that this relaundered mop costs you 12 cents per use, but it's getting you these results, if I can show you it's not cleaning, then we'll ask the question, how much would you pay for it? Would you pay for this mop, or would you use this mop if it was free, but it's not getting you the results you need? Yeah,
that's the interest too, is that you taking that mop and having to go 2 evolutions. But I'm even looking at residential cleaners. What are they doing? They're taking a mop. Some will take the mop that's at the house. The residential facilities are cleaning, but then they go to the next house, and they go to the next house. So you're basically taking whatever's on that soil load, you're carrying it to the next house, and you're carrying it to the next house. And I see that within professional cleaners as well, is that they're in this space, they take it from this bathroom to this bathroom. And healthcare is a big no-no. I think there's probably some rules in place around how many times you change a mop head or disposable mop head between rooms.
Yeah, they've AHE, the Association for Healthcare Environments, I believe is what it stands for, has all sorts of guidelines as far as cleaning goes. You want to go, what is it? You want to go bathroom to bedroom, opposite, because you're trying to go cleanest to dirtiest. Yes. So you're not cross-contaminating top to bottom. Use some sort of cyclical nature of your cleaning. So there are all sorts of guidelines that go into it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So if you had to look at the industry overall, and again, you got the microfiber cloths, just take me through something. Give me some kind of analysis of what you've got here. So this here we're looking at right now, what is this piece here?
So this is our bread and butter product. This is our Premier 2 microfiber floor pad. It's a 5x19 disposable floor pad. So you see the top side here is the printed side that's going to face up when you're mopping with it. The mop can be used for both dry mopping and damp mopping. So you can use it for dusting, but also use it for putting down your neutral floor cleaner or whatever it may be in the space you're cleaning in. And does a really good job of basically picking up everything that's on a surface. One of the benefits or the features of our products is that they're all white, the textiles. Yeah. The reason behind that is we're not trying to hide what's on your floor. You come across a lot of relaundered mops that are color coded or have different colors, and there's reasons for that. Obviously, sure. You put your yellows in your bathrooms, your greens elsewhere. But with this, you really want to know what you're picking up, and also when it's time to move on to the next mop. When this mop is filled up with dirt, debris, contaminants, you want to toss that thing out and move on to a fresh microfiber mop.
And that ties into a handle. That handle ties into a regular flat mop system. Is that kind of how it rolls into?
So this is compatible with standard hardware out there, 3M, Rubbermaid, all those guys. We do have our own hardware that goes along with it. And that's kind of the other prong of, I'd say, our 2-prong approach as far as our portfolio goes. I say one is the cleanliness and the health aspect of it from a disposable mindset.
Sure.
But 2, it's the efficiency of it. So we've got a lightweight hardware system with interchangeable attachments, 4 different attachments for all your cleaning applications. So that's high dusting, it's wall sealing, washing. We've got a disposable string mop with a touchless claw, and then your normal floor mopping as well.
So how do you, like when you're going from a wall to a floor to a countertop, how do you educate, again, color coding's big within microfiber, but how do you delineate which
textile or product you're using?
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty distinct, I'd say. I mean, like for example, the wall sealing pad is a blue hydrophilic foam pad that we encourage you to use on walls and ceilings because it eliminates a lot of the drip factor you get when you're up on walls and ceilings. Yep. And it's just much thicker, so it's going to hold more solution. The other thing we do, honestly, is we're huge on training. So we have staff of technical support specialists, we call them, that are people with years, decades of experience in the EVS world. So they've walked that walk. I mean, I can maybe talk the talk, but I'm just a sleazy sales guy, we bring in the tech supports, and they've worked in that world. They've worked in hospitals, and they can really get down and dirty with the staff and speak to why they're using the product, how they're using the product, and they know what it's like a day in the life of those people, I'd say.
And those are available remotely, or is that available on site? What's the story there? You do both?
On site, yeah. So we'll come in and for trials, for implementations, for retrainings, we'll bring those guys in and work with them.
So that's not to simplify it, but I get hospitals. You get a group of hospitals, you could have 100 cleaners within that space. It makes sense. But if you've got a college, you've got a K through 12 school, you've got a cleaner that has a number of employees, you guys will do the walk, do the talk, and make sure that they're off to a good start. So it's not just selling a product. It's
right. I mean, we know we're not going to have success with this product if we just drop it off. It's not a drop-off product. It's not a Me Too product. Yeah. I mean, it's still mopping a floor. So one of my colleagues coined the term same dance, different partner. Huh. It's same dance because you're still mopping a floor. You're still using a flat mop system, but different partner. I mean, we're going from a reusable to a disposable. So we want to engage the staff that are actually going to be using this 8 to 10 hours a day and not just have someone throw them a new product and say, hey, here you go. I mean, we know, and you know well, that the cleaning industry, a lot of these guys are working in thankless positions, and it's an incredibly hard job. And we want to make them feel valued because they are doing a very important job at the end of the day. So.
No, I think, it's anything you do to simplify it. I think the cleaning aspect of it, we all want that. I'm using Daryl as a reference, but we use this, we term the phrase within healthcare, rather ROI, people focus on ROI. Let's focus on ROL, return on life. That wipe, that one extra wipe you have, or that one process that you improve upon, what does it do from saving someone's life? And again, you can pitch that all day long in healthcare. Now you get into commercial real estate, contract cleaners, educational. Maybe it's not return on life that you're saving someone's life. Maybe it's employee productivity. Maybe it's they're not getting sick as often. So what is that worth? So maybe that's more of an ROH or return on health. So yeah, there's all these angles on, but just take a deeper dive. I'm going to be devil's advocate, but my opposition is it's too much change. I think you've addressed that through that. Hey, we're willing to do trials. Mm-hmm. You're willing to do training if it warrants getting a group of people together and getting out there and training folks on how to use it. But what other oppositions do you hear out there that's, again, the whole industry as a whole is starting to shift even more quicker than they have before. But what mental shifts would you like to the listeners to think about that you see again and again, that you preach again and again, and you've proven that you can get past those those pushbacks?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, change is very difficult in general, and certainly in the cleaning industry. But I feel like oftentimes we get into these conversations, we ask them to take a step back and look at all the ways the cleaning industry has changed. I mean, look in healthcare and the things that used to be reusable. I mean, gloves, gowns, even needles were reusable at a certain point. And through just research and digging into these things, you find out that, hey, that's actually not very healthy. So we're doing things that are combating cross-contamination and combating not the most healthy practices in your facilities. Yeah. I think what it also is, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Well, that opposition or that pushback on shifting the paradigm, I guess, do you find most people are willing to give you that trial that you need to kind of do to prove it, or are they pushing back on even doing the trial?
I would say in the past, I mean, COVID was an anomaly. Obviously.
You guys, rock stars during COVID, right?
We were, and part of that was because obviously heightened sense of cleaning, and we didn't know where COVID was coming from. If it was coming out the walls or whatever. So everyone wanted to just
chase.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody was thinking disposables at the time. So it was certainly an anomaly of a year. And I think things have started to settle back down a little bit more in terms of what it was like before for our sales process and us having to get out on the street again and really educate people. But another part of the reason it was a boom for us is because, I mean, we're a U.S. manufacturer, and throughout all of COVID, we were able to keep all our customers whole, keep them supplied, because we're making everything down in South Carolina, and we didn't leave any customers out.
That's awesome. No, COVID was interesting. I've talked to a few chemical manufacturers, not on the show, but it was interesting. And they go, "Oh yeah, it was bad. We were looking forward to going away." And I go, "No, you're not. You guys are making a killing during this time." And I think everyone out in this business, I think myself personally was busier than I've ever been. Just keeping up with everything. It was more, again, to your point, the selling was not having to sell. And I think a lot of people forgot how to sell during the COVID period that are in this business. And there was a lot of people just buying on speculation. Yeah. But the other thing is, the majority of the hard work that people in the manufacturing side had to, handle, as well as the distribution had to handle, as well as the end users who use the product, was just acquiring or getting the product, because a lot of the stuff was sourced overseas. And you've heard horror stories, I'm sure, about people buying things from overseas, and it shows up in an empty box, or it's half of what it was it's supposed to be, and the specs didn't match and the colors didn't match or whatever. So COVID was a chaos. But I think everyone that I've spoke with, there's going to be this is not even round one. This is going to be another something come down, whether it be major or minor. So I think that's the beauty of this cleaning business is I think overall we're going to be in a kind of a safe harbor, if you will, because I don't think anyone's getting less focused on cleaning. I think anything to get more focused on cleaning. No,
certainly. I think it might have maybe plateaued a little bit but certainly elevated from where we were before COVID. I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah, I think there's a niche too. I think this is interesting. I was reading some article about commercial real estate. People are concerned about the banks defaulting, which the banks holding the notes on the large commercial real estate, which ties into a lot of contract cleaners out there. And I would urge people to look at that video I posted, because it was kind of interesting. Again, it's above my pay grade, but what are you seeing within the BSC community overall? Are you seeing the adoption come through, or is that kind of I know healthcare is a sweet spot for you. Mm-hmm. But is BSC's kind of a market that you really want to go in and kind of show what you can do, or what is that market that's kind of next?
Yeah, absolutely. I think BSC is a huge one, and I think we've got a great team in general at Contec, but I think what the team we brought in the past few years has really done is flesh out our portfolio to make it a complete JanSan portfolio. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it makes a lot of sense in healthcare and in long-term care, acute care, and long-term care, but we've really expanded our portfolio to include products that a BSC would be using, whether it's like a tacky dusting sheet. We've come out with a trash can apron that fits our hardware and kind of competes with like the Rubbermaids of the world in that sense. So
explain that. What is that?
So we've got a Contec labeled trash can apron, similar like the Rubbermaid yellow one you see that's pretty ubiquitous across the industry. And along with it, we've got a portable bag that goes with it. We call our Premier Portables. And essentially what it allows you to do is when you're cleaning in a lot of what I'd say small footprint areas, or areas where maybe you don't have a custodial closet or something like that, it allows you to clean on the run, or clean on the go. So you've got 10 pads prepackaged in a bag. You're able to saturate your pads in a bag and mop. You've got 10 pads you can use on the go. Essentially, it's a pocket size or a purse size bag that you can carry with you. So you pair that with, we've got a tool hanging system. We partner with a company called ToolFlex, and we're an authorized distributor of them that hangs on kind of a wire frame on the edge of your trash can. I mean, oftentimes you're walking through arenas and airports, you see those bins, those brooms stuffed in the trash can. Yeah. Not the most slightly. I think one of your guests, or you might have said, as far as the square goes, perception is one piece of the square. Absolutely. So with that perception, I mean, it's just a cleaner look. And pair with our textiles, I think it really enhances it. No,
that's a huge area. That's we back in my old days when I was slinging chemicals, I was a sleazy chemical sales guy. joke. One of the funny things is that worker productivity. They're going to be on 8-hour shift or whatever it may be, and you're given that they have a 30-minute to an hour lunch. Okay, you give that, but we were finding things that let's just say the guy was doing floor cleaning, and he'd have to go and fill his tank up every 15, not 15 minutes, but maybe once an hour. But when he goes to fill that tank up in this large sweeper, it would take him because of how the systems was set up, it was only flowing at 2 or 3 gallons a minute to fill that tank, and it was a 50-gallon tank. So he would get an extra 15 minutes at every hour break that he would use as a cigarette break or whatever, do nothing, or he or she.
Yeah.
But you don't think about that, the ability to kind of keep moving, keep productive. And I think maybe it's me being stupid, but the more I'm working, the more I'm moving, the more I'm not having to go back and forth, back and forth. It feels like I'm more productive, which makes my job satisfaction, I guess, higher, but it also makes time go a little quicker, it seems like, as well. But yeah, I would definitely lean into that kind of that pitch, because there's a lot of back and forth movement to just the closets back and forth. And
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for using those, especially the string mop systems, there's a lot of dumping out your chemical after however many rooms, whatever your SOPs are, going to fill it back up. And like you said, I mean, that's 15, 20 minutes each time right there that you're wasting with that extra time. I mean, that's project work that could be done. There's all sorts of things. And I think outfitting your staff with best in class equipment and hardware, which regardless of whether it's Contec, whoever else out there, I think what the term you coined, was it ROH? I mean, return on
health.
Yeah. Return on health, let's call it happiness too. I mean, it makes your laborers feel valued. And I think that shows up in the work they do on a daily basis.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. You've got other things though. You've got wipes too. And I guess, what are you seeing on the wipe front? Again, COVID was hot for wipes, but what's going on with you guys with the wipes?
Yeah. So we've got a number of different fabrics. This one right here would probably be our most popular fabric. It's our Contec Clean Cloth. So we've got it in various configurations, and we've got the rolled wipe. Try not to block the camera. We've got the rolled wipe. We've got a quarter folded wipe, and it comes in a few different put-ups as far as dimensions or sizes. But this one right here, I'd say it's our leading wipe as far as cost effectiveness goes and performance. It's really meant to be a disinfecting wipe. So it's a disposable wipe, but I mean, it's really got a pretty sturdy feel to it. Sure. It's got good surface stability. It's not one that'll roll up on you on a surface or tear. It's a low linting wipe, so it can be used anywhere from a school to an OR, and you don't have any issues with it. One of the neat features about it too that we've really been pitching is the fabric itself is hydrophobic.
Explain that fancy word.
Big word, yeah. They taught me it during training. I had no idea what it was, but what it is it's water repellent. So if you were to just pour some water on this wipe, it's just going to bead up and not soak in.
And why is that good?
So the reason that's good is because I'll take it to a healthcare example, but you want to make sure that all your dispensing units are dispensing your proper ratio of solution. Yep. So your proper amount of chemical, your proper amount of water that's diluting the chemical. And what this wipe acts as almost is like an insurance policy, because let's say your dilution's a little off and your chemical's not pumping out the right ratio, maybe lower than it should be. What you'll see is these wipes will actually it'll eventually soak in because you do have a surfactant in there, but these wipes will float a little bit off the bat. And that's kind of a trigger for whoever EVS worker to say, oh, wait, my dispensing unit's off. And I mean, you look at large hospitals, there's hundreds of dispensing units. You can't be checking those things every day. So it kind of acts as a check on those things where your chemicals putting out right. And I mean, that's one of the most important parts of cleaning at the end of the day, is making sure you're putting down a disinfectant that's properly. So
you don't get the quat binding whatsoever. It's because the solution stays on the surface, and the basic surface is doing the cleaning with the mechanical action. And
exactly, yeah. And this wipe, the fabric itself is 100% synthetic, as all our fabrics are. So they're compatible with all commonly found disinfectants on the market. The other thing this thing does and is great as a disinfecting wipe is, once you do saturate it, it holds on to a great amount of chemical. Yeah. So it's great at helping you achieve your dwell times, whatever
that's key. That's key. Yeah,
exactly. So it'll do that. And I feel like you might have been referencing that with the spray and pray method, oftentimes people are coming right behind it and wiping that chemical up.
Yep.
With this, you're not gonna be able to do that because the fabric's hydrophobic. Even if you come behind that wipe after you've laid it down, it's just going to continue to spread that chemical. It's not going to pick it up.
Well, that's the key people don't understand. Most people don't understand. I didn't understand it until a few years ago when wipes kind of came hot in COVID. But you've got to see that dampness stay. It's not you wipe it and that you see it flash off like that. It's got to be damp, and it's got to stay damp for a certain amount of time, whether that time is on the label. But that's a whole thing, people too. So I can see the term again is
Hydrophobic.
Phobic, so
Yeah.
key word there.
Yeah.
But when I'm coming up to put this, I basically can put any chemical in that. You basically go to my dispenser, and basically if it's set up for this XYZ chemical at 2 ounces a gallon, I just pour it basically into that. And
You can pour it in there. You can pour it into a quart bottle and dump it in there. However you normally saturate your textiles, you can continue to do the same. You will need to meter it out a bit just based on surfactancy levels of chemicals. Because like I said, this thing does a great job of making use of the chemical you put on it. But based on their surfactancy levels, you're not going to need as much or as little.
How do you judge that then if you were looking at that?
A lot of it's just feel. I mean, so oftentimes what you'll see is if you're using too much chemical, it's just like an over sudsing, which no one really wants to see on their high-tech surfaces. They don't want to see it. You don't want to see saturation being left behind, or at least leaving residue behind. So it's just kind of feeling it out almost.
Gotcha. And you're again, healthcare. I see this perfect fit. But where else are you seeing? Are you seeing schools kind of starting to adopt? Because I guess during COVID, we had a bunch of sales of wipes just for teachers, I guess when they were in school before the kind of, everything was shut down. But what I saw was a lot of in-between cleaning. So they didn't have a full staff coming in and clean at night, but they would give teachers the wipes, and the teachers would actually do cleaning between classes to prevent, during cold and flu season, one thing. But also what it did is it expedited and lowered the cost of the cleaning within the school, because you kind of had, non-cleaners cleaning, which they do anyway. Because I think I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen this in many school systems. They've kind of said, teachers, if you want to bring disinfectants or not disinfectants, but sanitizing wipes to the classroom, it's on you. It's your cost. Mm-hmm. Some schools have been generous and said, hey, we'll give them to you. But there's a whole angle there with giving people who are in those classrooms and want to see the health and safety of their students kind of, protected, in lack of a better word, but giving them something like this to kind of do in between cleaning / disinfecting / sanitizing. So you seen an angle there?
I do. I think oftentimes with schools, you're looking for a wipe that might be a little more, diverse in its applications. So, I mean, I feel like oftentimes you're looking for something that might be able to pick up spills as well, or function in those different areas. So, like I said, we've got different fabrics, and I feel like those tend to be a little more compatible, a little more cost effective than even this wipe we've got here, which is, I mean, it's a good price wipe, but it is really meant for a disinfecting purpose and nothing else. So we've got the different fabrics that kind of cover those areas. Are you seeing
the contract cleaners? Again, they're a lot of these guys do trash and dash. I mean, just go through and perception to reality, to the point earlier, but just doing the mad dashing, clean the toilets, cleaning the bathrooms, making sure that looks good, getting the entry. But what are you seeing happening within the BSCs that are kind of taking that cleaning to the next level with the desk level? Because I think part of this whole thing is there's a battle right now, whether you know it or not. There's a battle to get people back into the office, from home to the office. And again, going back to the commercial real estate, contract cleaners want to see people in the office. The commercial owners of these properties want to see people back in these offices. But what are you seeing the contract cleaners that are thinking next level? How are they marketing that? Hey, maybe they're doing some level of disinfecting at the desk level. Are you seeing something there at all? Or
I see snippets of it. Yeah, I feel like oftentimes what you're talking about is a contractor that's able to offer an enhanced service to a client, and I think what that helps with is holding on to those contracts and renewal of those contracts, when you're able to say, hey, I'm not only just cleaning your building, or cleaning it for shine, as we often call it when we're talking about maybe not the best cleaning practices, but also cleaning it for health, and delivering that peace of mind to both the client, but also the tenants or office workers, whoever it may be, to bring them back into the office and give them assurance that everything is properly cleaned and disinfected overnight.
Yeah, you're probably too young for this, but you used to go in some of these hotels. Motels were probably known for it more back in the day, but you'd see the little band around the toilet seat, and it says, clean for your for your safety. And that band, made you think, I don't know if it was disinfectant. I'm assuming it was clean. It looked clean, but I can't tell you if it was disinfectant or not. But that band kind of did a lot of things. And I have seen some clever guys go out there, contract cleaners in particular, go out there and put little placards that, hey, we've disinfected your desk. And it gives that just level of insurance. And again, I think it's more of an add-on versus, this is what we do every single day. But I thought it was a novel idea to kind of just say, hey, even though you don't see us, we're here doing things that, again, ROH, return on health, right?
There you go. Yeah, we coined it, man. We just came up with something.
Trademark that damn thing. That's good. But what else would you like to share with the group? Again, this has been informative. Again, I bumped into Contec a few years ago, I think around COVID. And I think the fact that you guys were stateside was huge. I think the fact that, COVID, no one knew where it was coming from. So we were cleaning everything to the excess,
Right.
Don't get me started about paint gun manufacturers making sprayers that disinfected. But what other things are you seeing on the horizons, or what other message would you like to get out there to the listeners to say, hey, this is kind of other things we're looking at as we go out to these facilities or your operations to see?
Yeah, I just think in general, I think the cleaning industry evolves, like I was saying, and I think disposable microfiber, I believe, is the next evolutionary step in cleaning.
Yep.
I think when Contec Professional started, it became its own autonomous division. I believe it was 2018 or so. So we've been around 5 years. Not very long in the grand scheme of things, but I think even in just those 5 years, we've been on the forefront of pushing disposable. I would venture to say it was probably around 98% of the market was using reusable microfiber at the time. And I feel like that's probably closer to 92 or percent like that. We're really seeing it start to pick up. We've got large health systems coming on board, and I think you'll see it continue to grow. And we'd love to get out there, show our product. And
you guys are worldwide now. Is that correct? You're moving across different countries as well?
Contec Professional we're just in the U.S. Contec as a company is a global company, and across those other 3 divisions I mentioned, healthcare, clean room, and surface prep, we're either the number 1 or 2 global leader in those industries, with Professional hopefully not far behind us.
And all this started, again, what year? 88?
1988.
So, yeah, things are progressing. Again, it's a big world out there. And I think people forget about cleaning is not just in the United States. This is not a conversation. What we're talking about is not a conversation just exclusive to the Northeast, much of the United States. It's worldwide. And again, different countries have different ways of looking at cleaning, but I think everyone is kind of starting to move to the same level. But
absolutely,
no, it's interesting. I guess if people want to reach out to you, I guess you are a sales guy out there. You're trying to push this, and I don't mean that derogatory. We joke about being sales guys, sales guys, but you got a great story. I think the technology's there. I think the fact that you are stateside as a manufacturer. I love the fact of getting out there and really getting hands-on demos, trials, training. Yeah. That's huge. I think within the manufacturing space, there's too many people that are just sell and move on. And I think the true sellers, the people who are bringing value to the industry, those guys who bring that education piece. The product's going to do what the product's going to do. But what is that process that you need to use to do better results, better costs, better outcomes? I'll use another word, outcomes. I had a guest last week that was good, Mike Shawcut. He's great too. If you haven't met him, he's a great consultant, but he's focused on outcomes and how. And again, I'm going to get on a little diatribe, but how little incremental changes to your operation. It doesn't sound like much, but that incremental 1 degree change, what does it look like 6 months from now, a year from now? And I use the analogy with Mike is if you get an airplane in LA and you change that heading of the plane 1 degree and you're headed to DC, that 1 degree is going to make you end up in New York City, which is a whole nother space, right?
Right.
So I think the same thing with this. This is how do you layer this technology on with other things that incrementally organizations get better, get healthier, get cleaner. So that's my diatribe. But what if people had to reach out to you? You're on LinkedIn, right?
I'm on LinkedIn.
So we got Harry McBride on LinkedIn with Contec. You're on CleanSquare, so thank you for signing up for CleanSquare. That's the podcast host. Yeah, no, it's a passion. There's no revenue right now. It's just a passion about getting people like yourself out there. I will tell you, I'm excited to see young guys get into the business that are motivated about the business. I'm kind of getting up in age, and but it's kind of weird because it goes very quickly. You ask your dad that it goes very quickly. But what other avenues can they reach you? You're primarily focused in the Northeast, but you can connect guys across the whole country, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got reps that cover the entire country. I cover New England, so Connecticut through Maine. But LinkedIn, I'm on there. I guess we can put my contact info in the notes as well for email and phone calls. But I always love being face to face. That's my preferred method of doing business and creating relationships. I'm always happy to get out there and see people.
That's great. If you had to choose one thing to pique their interest, what would you say? Give me one demo of what would that one demo be?
As far as a product goes?
Yeah.
I'll give you a neat demo that we do that often grabs attention. We call it our Premier Challenge. So I told you these floor pads are called our Premier 2 microfiber floor pads. So what we do for our Premier Challenge is I'll come into a space in your facility. We'll have you mop over that space with your current textiles. So it's often a reusable microfiber flat mop. And I'll come right behind it with my mop with the solution and whatever to say, hey, this is what your current processes might be getting you. Flip that mop over and see what's on the bottom of it. So, I mean, like you said, we can talk the talk all day, but if my products aren't going to show up, then there's no reason to have me in your facility. But oftentimes the results you get are pretty attention grabbing, I'd say.
Wow. So there's your demo right there. So I'll request anybody listening to reach out to Harry to kind of set up a demo on that. Yeah. So no, this has been informative, Harry. I appreciate you taking the time very much. I think I'm excited for, guys like you get in the business. I think the technology is next level, to your point. I would encourage those to also try to take those 2 leaps if you're still using a traditional mop. So take the leap of faith and join the crowd, right? But thank you very much for the time, and we'll get this published and hopefully see some good results come out of it. So
yeah, thank you for what you guys are doing, Jack. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
No, thank you, sir. Yeah. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.